Broadcasting from Newfoundland, Canada, you're listening to the I Never Cast for This podcast. Get ready for controversial opinions and debates, but most importantly, let's talk gaming. Your ears are in the right place. This is I Never Cast for This.
Hello, gamers, and welcome to episode 19 of the I Never Cast for This podcast. I am your host, Kelthar, and thank you so much for being here today. We're going to have a great discussion discussing VR and the future of VR. And is VR going to replace standard gaming? Are we still going to have screens eventually? What's going to happen with VR in the future? That's what we're going to debate here today. But before we get into that, let me just introduce who we have here today. So, as I said, my name is Kelthar, the host of the I Never Cast for This podcast. And to my right, we have Erebus returning to the podcast again. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Looking forward to this discussion on VR. It's a huge passion of mine, so looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, no, you definitely have some strong opinions on it for sure. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing those for sure. Ooh. And also returning to the podcast again, we have Athricus. Welcome back.
Thanks, man. How have you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good, man. It's been a good week, I must say. Week since the last podcast for sure. No, it's been good. And for the first time on this podcast, we have a very special guest joining us from the Strictly Casual podcast. We have James Walmer. How's it going, man? Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
Starting off strong.
Oh, it's good. No, it's great to be here. So it's great for you to be here. I'm glad. So you are from Strictly Casual. Now, you used to just be a weekly gaming news show. That's when I first met you and your co-host Vincent. That's how I knew you guys. But you recently rebranded. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, what we did is we turned Strictly Casual, which used to be its own independent gaming podcast, and we turned the name of Strictly Casual kind of into an umbrella sort of brand. Okay, and so within that we have multiple different shows that all fall under the Strictly Casual property. So and a lot of like creative stuff that we do, we kind of look at brands like Rooster Teeth, where you have like all of these things like Funhouse and Achievement Hunter, but the umbrella is Rooster Teeth, and so they all fall under that. And so we're kind of doing something similar in that we have Strictly Casual, but then we do our weekly gaming news podcast that we that we did previously, but is now under the name Checkpoint. And then we have Pulling the Focus and Keeping the Flow. Pulling the Focus is like a pop culture podcast, pop culture news updates, that sort of thing, with Mr. Hollywood and Luigi. And then there's, of course, Checkpoint with Vincent and I. And then Keeping the Flow, which is Mr. Hollywood, Boba Shingo, or Vincent DeSantis, and myself, plus a guest host every week.
Nice. That's awesome, man. I'm really that announcement video you had was like super hyped too. Like the production quality on that was unreal. So
shout out to Ryder to editing that whole thing.
Yeah. So, and you guys are all in video production school? Am I right? Is that the right term for
No.
it?
So Vincent and Ryder are the only ones that are, sorry, I misspoke. Luigi's kind of, I don't know if he was in production school, but he's definitely doing video production as like a career. Like he's doing it. We get Snapchats and like videos from him all the time of just like being on movie sets in downtown LA. Awesome. Vincent's going to school for post-production. And then Ryder, I'm not quite sure what his major was in when he went to the same school as Vincent and I, but I know he's still pursuing film at another university.
Oh, okay. That's super cool. Yeah. So everybody listening now, go check out Strictly Casual. Now the brand Strictly Casual, which is super cool. They're on
it is cool.
YouTube. Are you anywhere else besides YouTube, or just YouTube for now?
YouTube and Twitch.
YouTube and Twitch. Cool. Very cool. So check them out, and we'll post all the links to your guys' socials as well at the end of the show for sure. As I said at the top of the podcast, you are listening to the I Never Cast for this podcast, and last episode with Erebus and Athricus, I think, honestly, was one of our best. So if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend it. It's the first in a series on mental health and gaming that we're doing. And last week we focused on addiction and gaming disorder, and I thought we had a really, really good discussion. And it was so good that we want to continue it into a series of episodes for sure. So definitely recommend checking those out. Also, all past episodes have been updated with show notes. So there's a lot of old news from before and all that stuff. So you can just skip right past that and get right to the topic of the week. And you can also watch us on Twitch every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you can't catch the live show, that's totally fine. You can catch us on YouTube. We're also on the audio format is also on most major podcast networks. And if we're not on one, just let us know. And at the end of every show we do, with the exception of last show, but every show we do a trivia game show at the end where I try to stump the panel and see if they can figure out the answer to usually a question that is related to the topic. So yeah, and it will be a VR related question, so should be fun. Before we get into the discussion today, Erebus, what have you been up to since last episode?
I hate to admit it, but I resubscribed to World of Warcraft. I realize that's not a popular thing to do because a lot of people are boycotting the game, boycotting Activision and stuff. But no, WoW is they revamped the whole leveling experience. They did a level crunch, and you can basically fire up your character at any level, play with any of your friends at any level, and play through any of the expansions again. So you basically time travel back lore-wise to Burning Crusade, Cataclysm, Warlords of Draenor, whatever you want to do, and you can level through that. If you could be level 5, your buddy could be level 45 and play together. So it's something they should have done a long time ago, and it's added a lot to the experience, I think. Athricus and I played a little bit a couple days ago. I think we're going to hit it again soon, and it was pretty fun to play through. So I'm doing that, and then the Pokemon Crown Tundra expansion just dropped, and Kelthar and I played that. I went over to his place 2 nights this weekend, and
Friday
we pretended that it was almost like we were kids again. Forgot that we have kids, and for a brief moment of time, and we had a couple of really cool nights playing through some actual genuine Pokemon co-op, which I think is the first time that they've done that. And it was really, really cool, kind of like something you envision when you're playing Pokemon Red and Blue back in the day. It's a really cool expansion, and it really helps, I think, fix the Pokemon Sword and Shield fiasco or issues that a lot of people have with the game. Crown Tundra is a really good expansion. So if you're on the fence about Pokemon, I think it's a good time to dive in with that game for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were up until like 2 or 2:30 in the morning, and of course having to get up at like 7 in the morning. 2 days in a row kind of sucked, but it was worth it. That's what kids do to you. Have to make you get up at 7 in the morning. It was I shouldn't complain because that's pretty good. Actually.
I probably got like 6 hours of sleep through the entire weekend. So that was we somehow made it through.
Worth it for sure. Athricus, what have you been up to since the last podcast?
Did play plenty of WoW and whatnot. Mostly just trying to get my online life together. Trying to track down all 47 of my email addresses. Trying to remember the passwords and delete the ones I don't want anymore.
Are you exaggerating when you say 47?
I am. It's probably closer to 10 or 11.
Still a lot.
It's a fair amount that I need to cut down and organize. And I don't know, trying to get my PC up and running properly and get all the games onto one hard drive. And my digital life is a little bit of a mess, so I'm trying to bring it all together and organized.
But when that's organized, I'm sure that'll feel pretty good for sure.
It'll feel good. Other than that, just watching movies and trying to diminish my movie list. And that's about it.
Movie backlog, yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. Very cool. And James, so since the last podcast, well, you haven't been on a podcast. So what have you tell us a bit about yourself besides Strictly Casual. Tell us about James Walmer.
So first of all, right now I'm just a student. So I go to the same student as Vincent. So I am literally up to everything in homework right now. Like it is, Zoom University is might be the biggest struggle bus that I've ever been on. So one thing that I'll always complain about is because we are not in person, our professors assign us more work to try and make up for the fact that we aren't in person and engage us with more content. But because we are spread so thin across all our classes with our homework, it leads to less interaction, and it leads us to less kind of God, what am I trying to say? We don't perceive the content as well because there's just so much.
No, for sure. Yeah, I took I went to university as well, and I think I took 2 online courses, and they are the courses I hated the most because
Yeah.
I used to never skip classes because I used to just love going to class because then I would feel like, okay, at least I'm absorbing something. So whether I study for an exam or not, at least I went to class and I absorbed something. But having to do everything online, I can't imagine.
I would have failed out of school. I would not have. If I went to school during COVID, I graduated 8 years ago. But if I went to school during COVID, I would have failed out because if everything was online, I would have been screwed. Would have failed. I would be working. I would not be working. I don't know what I'd be doing. But yeah, I can't imagine how you guys are doing that all online. That must be tough.
It's tough, but we're just getting through it, plowing through as much as we can. I like, I still have like groups of friends who I get to hang out with like on weekends. Like every Friday night we get together, like make food. It's normally like a pizza or just whatever. Like last week we made like a queso and burgers, and so we had like queso burgers. Kind of good, not gonna lie. And then we watched a movie. So last week we watched Prisoners. Incredible movie.
Prisoners is
That's the one with
fantastic.
Hugh. Is that the one with Hugh Jackman?
Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman.
I
and
love
Jake
that
Gyllenhaal.
movie. I thought
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think the reviews weren't great though, were they? I don't think they were. I don't know.
I don't know. I just know it didn't do well in the box office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it though. I remember Erebus. You and I watched that in your basement. That one
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it's very disturbing, but very good.
Yeah, definitely.
Very hard to watch.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Cool. Well,
So,
yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. But in terms of games, I've been playing a lot of Overwatch lately.
Oh, nice.
Used to be way back into it when it first came out, but jumped back in about a week or 2 ago with Vince because he just got it. So I was like, I'll go back into it,
Nice.
and I just fell in love all over again.
Yeah, I used to be hooked on that game for sure, especially when it first came out, and even like a year after it came out, I picked it up, and it's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Especially if you have people to play with. I think if you were playing solo, it wouldn't be as good. But no, for sure. Cool. Well, I think we're now ready to get into the topic of the week. So, this is a topic we've wanted to talk about for a very long time. So now, and James is getting ready. He's all excited too. So VR, is VR really the future of gaming? We're going to focus more on the gaming aspect. I know VR has a whole lot of uses in education and in the workplace and different places like that. But specifically for gaming, we're going to more focus on today. So first of all, let's just get everyone's over. Like, I already know Erebus and Athricus' opinions mostly on VR, but just so everybody knows, like, let's just go around. So Erebus, tell us what's your experience with VR and your overall impressions of it.
So I went back and forth on VR for a couple of years when it was announced. Price point was too high for me at the time to really justify getting into it. But like the more I did research on it, watching reaction videos, people on YouTube, like showing it to their parents and like people losing their minds and stuff, I was like, I really want to give this a try. So I can't remember what year it was, but I bought the Oculus CV1. So that's the one with the 2 sensors and kind of like their launch, I guess their first one, other than the DK2 model, which was more of their prototype. But the CV1, I think, was their first like retail launch. And I will never forget the first time I put it on. I'll never forget when I was on Discord with you guys and I put it on and went through like the tutorial thing, and I did not realize how good it was going to be in terms of the level of like the depth of field and just the level of immersion and actually feeling like you're in the game. So I was hooked from then on. So like love it. Huge passion for it. Played a lot of like Elite Dangerous and a lot of different VR games, a lot of tech demo type stuff, but like some really good VR games, and really enjoyed it. And then recently I sold my Oculus CV1 to Kelthar for an embarrassingly low price, like really low price. He somehow, I don't know, I'm a sucker or something, but I really wanted Kelthar to get into it so he could play with us, and so I gave it to him for next to nothing.
I think I
and
got
then,
the little brother discount. I think that.
so
that
it was
helps.
more than a discount. It was like 95% off or something. But
Or robbery, however you want to put
it
it.
was
Yeah.
robbery. Yeah. And then I bought the. I was getting sick of the sensors, and the Rift S had come out, so I heard the screen quality was a lot better. So I bought the Rift S, and I haven't looked back since. It's been an amazing experience. Really like it, and recently No Man's Sky has been the biggest time sink for me from a VR perspective. But yeah, in general, love VR, love everything about it. Awesome. And I will be continuing to buy sets as they come out, provided that the upgrade's worth it.
So my impression is you're fully on board with VR and you can't wait to see where it goes.
Yep, 100%.
Cool. Athricus, what's your experience with VR and what's your impressions?
Well, probably the first year or two experience with VR was Erebus telling me how amazing it was and how I had to buy it immediately. I certainly didn't. I assumed it was good just based off what he was saying, but I didn't truly understand how cool it was until I guess it was Kelthar's wedding. Yeah. Came down, gave it a try. Gave it a try then, and it was good. It was certainly good. I think there's still a video of me. I wouldn't say freaking out, but having a good time for sure.
It was you playing in death, thinking you probably looked like Legolas, and it was really funny to watch. He was super into it, like super immersed, like he was in Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah.
Now, you actually tried it before that at DreamHack.
I did try to DreamHack at your bachelor party, yeah.
Yes.
But it was a weird game, and whatever was wrong with it, it was certainly not very fun. The tracking was all off, and it wasn't set up properly. My one wasn't set up properly.
Right.
So
you weren't impressed from that initial.
I wasn't
initial
super
time.
impressed. No.
No.
I pretty much forgot about it. I certainly did enjoy it. Well, I definitely enjoyed myself at your place because I ended up buying the Rift S a couple months later, I guess. Now I returned that one, but that's not the point. The point is I have a Quest 2 now, so I'm relatively pleased with that. I'm certainly not in the same camp as Erebus. I wouldn't say it's the future of gaming, but
Okay.
I think we'll have an interesting discussion on it.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And cool. So, James, what's your experience with VR?
So when the moment I saw VR, like Oculus Consumer Version 1, I always wanted to be on board. And so the minute that the PlayStation VR came out, I was like, I'm all in. I want this. I got it for my birthday the same year it came out.
Yeah.
And my experience with that was the space that I had was certainly not optimized for VR.
Okay.
Too small of a space. It was right here in my room. And I just couldn't get, like, it was the field of view or whatever on the camera was not wide enough to just get the small space that I had. And so for some games it would work just fine, especially like sitting games like there was the Until Dawn like roller coaster game that was like a shooter, and you like go through the Until Dawn environments and like shoot like targets and stuff like that. Super fun. I had a good time with it, but it always felt like kind of a party trick.
Yeah.
Like it was always a thing to like have people come over. Oh, try this, and that was always fun.
Like a
I
tech
never,
demo kind of thing, eh?
like a
Yeah.
tech demo sort of thing. So, I think I'm gonna strike kind of in between Erebus and Athricus and say that it is a future of gaming,
But not the future.
but not the future of gaming. I don't think it's I don't think everything is pointing to VR. I think VR is a branch of an experience that is going to continue to develop, and that community and market for VR will continue to develop because I think it's at a point, especially now at $300 US dollar entry point. I think that is accessible enough for people who want to be into VR to jump in, and I think the people that it is drawing right now are going to be continue to be drawn. But I don't know if it's going to be the Ready Player One type scenario where we have, at least for a really long time, where we have everyone who's fully immersed in these environments for long periods of time, and they don't care about like the outside world because everyone's just living in trailers because they don't care.
Right. Okay. No, definitely all good points. So, yeah, it's you all have different points there, which is really good. Do any of us think VR is a gimmick? I based on your impressions just then, I'm going to say no. Am I right on that? Like VR is not. A lot of people think it's a gimmick, but I'm assuming you guys don't. Am I right on that?
I do not.
It depends on what you mean by, or how you would define VR. Like, are we talking about the headsets in their current form? Or are we talking about being able to, have some sort of neural-like interface? I mean, what's the difference between the headset and like a neural link interface? Are we defining VR as here's a headset and controllers, or are we saying it's literally, we're taking it by its name, virtual reality? It's a way to escape into a virtual world.
I guess how do you want to take it?
Well, it's something I would need answered, because I mean, I think virtual reality is certainly the future of gaming. Okay. I don't think.
I think that's how it would be framed, Athricus. Like virtual, at least I think for the purposes of this discussion, Kelthar can correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, I think we can all say that the technology of VR will evolve and go beyond what we just see in the current headset form. So I think I would think with the discussion today is about just virtual reality in general, and how it, is that it's in and of itself a gimmick versus, traditional gaming.
Would you shove augmented reality into that same category?
I wouldn't. I don't think.
I think they're different, right? Like there could be an overlap eventually where like they have methods where, because like I know in the Oculus Rift S, right, like you can put on the headset and actually see your room through the lens, right? Erebus, am I right on that with the Rift S? Because you can do that to like scan your room, but eventually maybe they'll have something where you can look and see your room, but there's going to be AR stuff too. I don't know. They could implement it.
That's coming up soon, I think, with the Quest 2. At least they're having a virtual workstation, I think, was announced with the Quest 2, where you can see your desk or whatever, your room pass through and have your screens popping up augmented reality style.
Yeah, so I mean, we can get into the weeds on all the different functions of VR, but I think Kelthar, you said you want to keep it to VR.
Yeah, specifically if we can, like just yeah, I think VR and AR both have their uses and stuff, and like I said, with workstations and all that kind of stuff. But I think there could be AR in gaming as well. You never know. Like I'm sure people more creative than me will come up with stuff like that. But yeah. Well, do we think headsets will always be used for VR gaming, or do you, what?
I don't think headsets like the ones they are now by any means. I think eventually, I mean, if we go far enough into the future, we're talking about the Neuralink with the Tesla's Neuralink or whatever the hell it is. That would be far into the future, obviously, but headset current form, certainly not. I don't think it'll be a huge thing with this headset. I think it will need to take another big leap before it becomes like a super mainstream gaming application. Mm-hmm. I think it'll have to get to the point where it's just glasses that like project into your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, so this is, I'll start it off with this. So an issue I have with VR, and I really like VR, I think it's cool, but I'm also very lazy when it comes to playing video games. I like to just grab a controller, sit down, and start playing. I can, have a drink or eat while I'm playing and all this kind of stuff. If I'm going in VR, I have to grab the headset, make sure the lenses are clean, put them on, adjust the eye things because they're all messed up, adjust it on my head, tighten it, loosen it, and then like it gets all uncomfortable. I have to take it off because I'm itchy, and then I put you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and then I have to find my controllers. Oh, it's out of batteries. I need to go replace it. And I find that kind of stuff I just find so irritating, and I end up wasting like 20 or 30 minutes just to get into a game sometimes. Now maybe that's just me, I don't know. But I just find that part of VR kind of takes me away from it a little bit, whereas I'd rather, like we've been playing No Man's Sky a little bit, And it's almost to the point where it's like I'd almost rather just play it on flat screen than spend all this time getting into VR.
See,
So
I don't agree with any of that at all. In terms of the actual problems with VR, and I mean that in the nicest way. You're just wrong. Just kidding. No, what I'm saying is I could make that same, like, when I sit down at my computer, I've got to get my mouse set up properly. I've got to make sure my chair is at the right height here, and I got to get my headset on. Oh wait, my volume's too low. I've got to readjust my volume. Okay, no, my monitor is a bit dirty. I've got to wipe off my monitor. Like I can make that same argument. Like if you have VR properly set up, like when I sit down to play No Man's Sky, my headset is right there. I grab it, I put it on, I have my controllers, my stuff is already calibrated. There's nothing I need to do. I'm in No Man's Sky just as quickly flat screen as I might be a bit quicker in VR, to be honest with you, once I have everything set up. So I think that's more of a. I don't think there's much of a setup involved. There was for me, and maybe that's part because you have the CV1, maybe your sensors and stuff, you got to deal with that kind of stuff, and it's a bit finicky. But for me with the Rift S, I throw it on and I'm in and I'm good. I don't have issues with like itchiness and like I know that's an argument some people make about comfort. I have a really weirdly shaped head. Maybe that helps. It helps me with the comfort of the VR headset compared to others. I don't know, but I never have a comfort issue or anything like that. So I've heard those arguments before about setup and stuff. I just don't. I'm wondering if it's more just, you know, I don't know. I well, especially like the mental piece of it, but I don't know if it's just the optics of using VR and that it seemingly has a huge setup, so you feel like you just want to lay back and use the mouse and keyboard or whatever. But I just don't empathize with that argument because I find it equally the same to set up or use.
I would say that it's probably a little bit of both. Like you're Erebus, you're probably just super used to it. You just go in like you would any other computer game, whereas Kelthar is not super, or it doesn't go into it all the time. Like you said, he's got sensors that need to be perfect and don't work all the time. So yeah, maybe it's just that Erebus is super used to it and really wanted to get into it and has put the time into making it simple, whereas Kelthar has kind of not had enough time to do that yet.
could be. James, you have a point on that?
I think the main issue for me when it comes to VR, for like, if we're saying, oh, we think everybody's going to have VR, right? I think the main issue is the isolation that VR brings. I don't think people want to be totally, like, absolutely immersed. Like, I guess vast majority of people, right? This is a generalization. I think the vast majority of people want to play games in an environment where they can still interact with other people around them. If they want to drink their water, whatever, their gamer fuel, whatever it is, while they're gaming, they have that option to do that. They're aware of their surroundings, and we have some of that with like the pass through of modern headsets with external cameras that they can like see their environment. But I just don't think it's there yet. And following that rabbit trail down to like something like Neuralink, right, in the far future, I think that's just going farther into like further, like, okay, I'm gonna be laying on my bed for like hours, and I just don't think that thought of saying, all right, I'm gonna get home and I'm gonna lay on my bed for hours while I play video games is like appealing to someone who might want to just want the more casual gaming experience.
Yeah. And
So I think the market's there for like the full immersion, like, oh, I'm hardcore, like I want to jump in and be immersed, like you might be Erebus, or like it sounds like you are, but I just don't think that's for everybody and not for me.
I would kind of agree with you there. I think for me, at least, going into it isn't so bad. You know, you put it on, you're in and you're disconnected, but I do find it very jarring coming out of it and going from whatever, something that's over the course of, an hour or so does become very immersive. And then coming out of it and being like, oh yeah, it's not it's not actually real. Things are, I get a little thrown off, although I don't know if I'd agree with the Neuralink. I feel like if the Neuralink was what I would want it to be, I would prefer that. I would prefer to get lost in that because I would assume it would be closer to reality. So you would almost forget that you would almost completely forget that you're in a virtual world and coming
Because
out.
it's so tightly interfaced with your own. Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
is that potentially dangerous? Do you think?
I feel like it would be.
I feel like it is to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it kind of ties into our subject last week.
Yeah,
right,
because
about-
I would almost make the argument that the Neuralink has its own limiting. Like there's a subset of people that would use VR but would not use a Neuralink because of the health,
Right, because of how invasive it is.
the invasive. Yeah, exactly. The only thing I'll say on the last thing we were just talking about, I understand kind of where you're coming from. I think the social piece is a good point, that like if you're have your buddies over and stuff like that, that VR is a bit strange, but in terms of the isolation. But again, like I would love to have a setup here where I have a Quest 2, I have my Rift S, my buddy can put it on it, and we can chill kind of together in the same room and there's some games that work around that. So I think that'd be cool to explore and see how that can be. Again, I use the pass through, as you mentioned. So like grabbing drinks, kind of knowing what's going on around me. If I hear a noise or something, I don't find that too bad. And in fact,
And
I
that's
actually
easy
feel
to activate.
really easy to activate. You double tap. So on the controller here, you just double tap that's the wrong controller, but you double tap the O button on the other one, and then it just opens up pass through, and then you hit it again to go back through. So it's really simple. It doesn't interfere with your gaming at all. You're in and out of it really quickly. And I actually feel more connected in VR because I can have in my game, I can add overlays. So like I'll hit a button and I'll bring my two monitors that appear in VR to be like 100-inch curved screens, and I'll put them over me, when I'm playing No Man's Sky. So I'll have a movie running here. I might have my buddy that's on Discord streaming something over here while I'm in VR playing my No Man's Sky flying spaceship. So I actually feel more connected to people and all that stuff while I'm in VR playing. So again, just my experience, and so I love it. And that's just me personally. I don't have that coming. I can play VR for 12 hours, and I don't do that anymore with kids now, but back in the day. But when I played for long periods of time and then come out of it, went to sleep. Like I've had some weird dreams, I guess, but I haven't had anything, crazy or anything that would question me wanting to play it anymore.
Sure.
So it hasn't affected my, I guess, real life that way. Yeah.
Cool. I think one thing I just add on to that real quick is I think there's spatial barriers when it comes to VR. Like you have to have the space for it. And that's my personal deterrent from VR because I'm never feel like I'm in a space. Personally, I mean, I have a small house, but like I don't have the room necessarily to like spend extended periods of time.
I guess it depends on what kind of game you're playing. Like if you're playing No Man's Sky or something, like you're pretty much, if you're seated in a spaceship or something, like you wouldn't really walk around much anyway, right? It depends on what you're doing.
Well, I think too. Yeah, like, and I was in a small space before I was in this house. I had a small area that I was using the VR in, and I was hitting the wall constantly, hitting the ceiling constantly. It was very frustrating when I was trying to get really into it. Something that Athricus might be able to touch on as he gets more into the Quest 2, and what really appeals to me is the wireless, because the wire on the VR headset is also really annoying. Sometimes you're playing, you get twisted around, it gets around your leg or whatever, and that ruins the immersion, I think, because it takes you out. And you feel like you're limited in movement. I can imagine with the Quest 2 being wireless and being able to just freely run around a large room in your house if you have that. I would say that's even better, and I haven't even experienced that before.
No, for sure. I guess it's a good thing to cover here is, do we think VR gaming is actually going to replace standard gaming with a screen? I think that's a good thing to say, because I personally don't think it will, and I think a few other of you kind of share that. And Erebus, I think you're more on the side that it probably will eventually.
Yeah.
Am I
I
right?
have more of the controversial opinion of, I think, and I don't have a timeline on this, but I think if I look at, I think will be the old people that say in like 15, 20 years, will be saying, back in my day, we watched TV. Like I do think that when VR hits a certain point in terms of screen quality, in terms of comfort, in terms of, to your point about, not having that issue when you come out of it and go into it and that kind of stuff. If they can solve all those issues and have a pretty cool social experience, I don't think we're that far away from, like, why would you buy an 80-inch TV when you could have a 300-inch TV, perfect quality, 4K or 8K or whatever it is, when it comes out, and do it in VR. I think we're going there. I think it sounds ridiculous to think of people sitting on a couch next to each other with headsets on watching TV. I think that whole, but I would be as bold as to say I think we are going in that direction. As weird as it sounds, I really do think TVs will be on their way out. Might be 10, 15 years from now, but I think we're going in that direction.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I mean, it's not going to be as. I do agree. I think at some point, no one will have a screen in their house at all, because it will be to the point. And if you look at some of the VR headsets that have been displayed, I know Panasonic has one that's literally glasses go around your ear. They're like this, and I can imagine not having a single screen in my house, just having my glasses on my shirt, pick them up, put them on, and not necessarily virtual reality, but at least having an augmented reality where you do have that 90-inch TV on your wall.
No screens at all, though?
Oh, I agree. I agree completely with Athricus.
Especially if you can have a VR and an AR system all into one. So you click a button, you're in VR, click a button, and now you have, it's like you're looking through a set of glasses, but you have all your screens everywhere.
Google Glass, baby.
Yeah, they're not there.
Yeah.
That would be cool, yeah. It's just, I don't know, with VR too, like, and it's like Bob Ashinga said in chat, that's actually the co-host on Strictly Casual with James, but he was saying
great guy.
He can't, he says, VR makes me low-key anxious if I'm in there for over 30 minutes. And I think there's a lot of people like that, right? And maybe that's VR in its current state. Eventually, with all the studies and tests and all this kind of stuff, eventually, yeah, maybe they'll get to a point where VR, like, people can handle it, right? Like, no matter who you are.
There's a couple of things with that. So I completely agree. And I've met people like Bob Ashinga I know people that can't stay in it for more than 20, 30 minutes. I think actually Green Knight's one of them. He talks about how he gets a bit motion sick and stuff like that. So I think obviously the science around VR, they need to figure that out. They need to figure out how to make it less, for people that are a little bit more prone to motion sickness, to maybe claustrophobia, those types of things, or isolation. They have to figure that out. And maybe that's the headset design, like Athricus said, maybe they need to change that. But I do think that I think once they solve that and the comfort level and they get it down to where, like Athricus said, it's a pair of glasses that you put on, or it's something where it's not nearly as jarring, but it just takes you right in. I think if they can solve that piece, yes, there'll probably still be a small subset of people that can't use it, but I think that number is small. And also the other thing I was going to say too is and I think Kelthar, you've run into this too. Sometimes it's just not, a lot of people that have used it, they just don't have it set up properly. They might not have their IPD set properly. Mm-hmm. Some people, are in denial that they actually need glasses, and VR really hones in on that. If you need glasses, if you have vision issues that you haven't addressed, and you try to go into VR, it's going to mess you up. And I've read about that. Like you need to have, there's actually contact lenses you can get for VR that go against the.
Actually, Athricus, you had an issue like that, didn't you, with VR?
Yeah.
I had an issue with the Rift S because there was no IPD slider. The whole thing looked like garbage, and I don't know whether mine was. I don't know whether mine was defective as well. The software IPD adjustment didn't seem to do anything, so I could have just had a defective model. But an IPD slider is certainly necessary for that.
So Athricus, if you don't mind me asking.
Mm-hmm.
What has your experience been with the Quest 2? Because that is the most, it has the highest resolution screen, right? It's 2K resolution. Yeah. They boast almost little to none screen door effect.
Mm-hmm.
I heard the strap isn't incredibly comfortable, but the Elite strap is comfortable. So I don't know if you have that.
I don't. Okay. The strap's not super comfortable. I would definitely get the Elite strap, and I'm considering getting the Elite strap with the battery built in just to counterweight the back, because I do find it's obviously a light system, but it's still not weightless. So I think that would help. I know the Elite straps are having issues with breaking. A lot of them are snapping on people, and people are getting pretty upset about that. But as far as screen door effect, there's almost none. I think certainly for the price, it's phenomenal for the price. I have a problem with and it's not going to bother everyone, but for me, the sweet spot, having to be perfect, and even when you're perfectly centered, if you're looking around, moving your eyes around, obviously the edges aren't clear.
Right.
If they could fix that, I think it would be a damn near perfect system.
So you said yours still does that?
Well, I think everyone's does that. Like if you're looking dead on, it's going to be relatively clear. But
They all have like a sweet spot, yeah.
Yeah, if you're moving your eyes around, it's blurrier on the edges. That's just a lens thing. I don't think you're going to get away from that until we move on to something new.
VR contacts, that'd be deadly.
Good contacts there are contacts for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen a few.
Athreus drop for you guys?
Thing that takes me out of it, but that's pretty standard for everything.
Say that one more time, Athreus. You dropped for a second.
Yeah, I keep dropping. I don't know why. I got to reset my router. That's my only complaint, and it's not a knock on the Quest 2. Like that's every headset is going to have the sweet spot, but I don't know if I would change anything.
It's really unfortunate too that and this is kind of its own topic maybe, but it's really unfortunate that Oculus is leading the charge in this because Facebook is disgusting. I would go as far as to say that, and I would certainly hope there's no debate here on this, but requiring a Facebook account. I just read an article today saying people that were deleting their Facebook accounts were losing access to their Oculus account and their games.
Yep. I heard that too.
I think it's absolutely disgusting. I think they should be ashamed of themselves. I think the Palmer Lucky guy or whatever his name is, the guy that created Oculus, I know he's not happy with all this because they had made that promise, and Facebook had made that promise that they would never have they were not going to require Facebook accounts and all this stuff. So the whole privacy issue around VR, and it's just really unfortunate that, I'm passionate about VR, I'm passionate about the technology, but a lot of it gets lost in this bullshit of the privacy stuff that should not be a problem, but Facebook's making it a problem. So it's just I'm really hoping that some bigger, we got the Valve Index, we've got the what's it, the G5, the
G2 HP.
G2. So there's some cool up and comers, but Oculus is definitely, I think, in the lead right now, just in terms of I guess resources that they have and what they're putting into it. But I personally, just from a personal standpoint, the Facebook stuff really bothers me because it's just taking away from the progress of VR in general.
Right.
Yeah, they certainly went for it. They knew no one could compete at that price point with what you're getting. So they knew that people would be all over it. And so they had some leeway to force you to get an account and use your real account and your real name and stuff. So they're definitely assholes and they know what they're doing. But I mean, if you're going to put the money into it, then you're going to get away with it, I guess.
Brutal for sure. We got a good tweet today, actually, from because I tweeted out about the show, and someone responded, and I thought it would be good to read this on the show because he makes some good points here. So it's from Darth Buzzard on Twitter. He says, VR isn't like other advancements in gaming because it is its own medium. So he's arguing it's not really in competition. It's like the birth of gaming itself, but really more than that, since gaming is a subset of what VR offers. There will be a day where both VR and AR are integral to daily life, including gaming, but this doesn't mean it will replace traditional gaming. I think a huge part of VR's gaming future is a combination of VR games, non-VR games played on virtual screens, the evolution of gaming communication, like future VR Discord chat rooms, and attending virtual events like E3. And he said, last thing is that, like all mediums, it will take a long time to develop and refine, so people need to temper expectations before VR gaming is mainstream. That could take until the end of this decade and not just in the next few years. So do you agree with what he's saying there? Like, is VR gaming like its own thing? Like, and it's not actually going to replace regular gaming necessarily, but it's just going to be in addition to?
I think it will take at least, honestly, probably closer to 20 to 30 years before it replaces not necessarily traditional gaming, but certainly like we were talking.
20 to 30?
I'm thinking at least 20 before it gets to the point where we were talking about before, where it's super comfortable, where it's non-invasive, where you can have it in your pocket all the whole time. And again, I don't know if it would. I guess we're talking about.
I'm struggling with, like, you're talking 20 to 30 years, so we're talking 1990 to now. Look at where the evolution of stuff from then to now. You're looking at like regular NES to where we are now. So to me, like 2040, I feel like it's rapidly progressing. Like I agree with you. I think it's going to be some time, but I would say more around the 10 to 15 than the 20 to 30 probably.
That's where I would land
Yeah.
too.
Depends on what we're talking about. I guess.
I don't think 20 is outrageous
We're-
at any. I think 20 is a fair thing to say because to be it fully mainstream. I think 10 or 15 it's going to be pretty common, but I think 20 is where it's going to it could take over.
If we're getting into semantics on fully mainstream versus mainstream, but I would stand by 10 to 15 for just generally mainstream. Like I think VR is getting more and more popular every single year, and I think again I think you got to look at too the real world stuff that's going on. So like, who knows with the COVID pandemic and with everything that's going on with that, the way the world is going, where it's just it's an unfortunate reality, but it's almost like that Ready Player One kind of, people are staying at home more, people are isolated more. There's going to be a push for VR there, I think, in terms of being VR in the classroom, for school, for offices, for engineering. There's already the previous place I worked, VR was used so people didn't have to go offshore on the oil rigs. They were using VR just to tour the oil rigs and design stuff right through the VR platforms. Like I think we're going in that direction fairly rapidly. So for me, again, 20 to 30 years, we're going to see a big shift. But I think the shift itself to mainstream, I think will happen earlier. Personally,
I have a question. Do you think it'll happen first with the gaming, or do you think it'll happen first with everyday application, like having instead of like a TV on your wall, you have an application in a like VR like glasses or whatever the normal everyday application would be, right? So what I'm imagining is, so in the US we love football, okay? Super Bowl Sunday. I walk through the door, my boy Tommy, he goes, "Oh, you got your glasses? Pop them on. We're watching the game right now." I pop my glasses on, and it's not the full screen. It's a window in the corner where I can watch the game and I can interact with everyone, eat food, do the whole shebang, do the social function, while at the same time everyone is synchronously watching the football game all together.
I would probably argue. I wouldn't. I don't even know if I would want that personally. I would be more looking forward to you get all your friends over and for the big game or whatever, and you all put on your glasses, and you are not, there's not like a window or a screen. You're at the stadium. You're sitting, like there's a camera in your house. It's taking pictures of your friends, so it's bringing all your friends beside you on the rows, and you're in the game. I think we're closer to that than what you're saying.
But wouldn't that take actual like goggles instead of just glasses?
Yeah, I think we're going closer
to go to the game. Well, no, you can still do that with goggles now.
You can have both. Like you can have one thing that does both things.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just think the whole notion, whether again, I think we're going to sound like old people this way, but I think the whole notion of going to your friend's house to watch, I think people are just going to chill in VR. I think you're going to go on VR and you're going to go like watch the Super Bowl with your buddy. If you look at what's happening with COVID now, like, have you guys seen like the digital screens in the stands and stuff that people are using, like for sports events and The Voice, I think it was, or America's Got Talent or something like that? They've got like the crowd is screens with people's faces, and they're cheering.
Isn't basketball doing that?
I don't know if you guys watch Black Mirror, but there was an episode of Black Mirror around that. Like it's literally happening now in real life. Like what was your question, Kelther? Sorry.
Saying, didn't the NBA do that where they had fans in the stands with faces?
Yeah, so they had fans in the stands. So what I'm saying is like that wasn't VR. That was just like people were watching through their monitors with webcams, and that was being synced, and the sound of their cheering was being synced to the game. But like, if VR was mainstream, that's what you're going to start seeing. Like people at events, you can sell tickets to games and stuff through VR. Like, and they're already starting to go down that path where you can buy NBA tickets. It's nuts. Like I guess that's more my point of your question from before. Is I really do think we're moving rapidly in that direction, not just for gaming, but for just general activities. And then I think the real world events is helping to drive that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's going to happen first before it's applied to gaming in a more seamless fashion, or do you think it's going to happen first for gaming?
That's a good question. I think it will. I think if Facebook leads the charge, like they're pushing for not just a gaming kind of thing. I feel like they're pushing the Quest as like a general all use type thing. So I think it'd probably be regular application first, like in terms of, and I think that's what Facebook's they're trying to attract like non-gamers. Like I think the PC gaming VR is still, that'll be a harder sell, the PC gaming, because the PC like the PC gamers, mouse and keyboard, that's their thing. That's what they're passionate about, and getting them off of that is going to be difficult. Like they're going after people that are not traditional gamers with the Quest 2, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because it is perfectly standalone, and that's what people want. Like the same people who just buy an Xbox or PlayStation and they're good to go. So they want that kind of thing. Yeah.
Is anyone here a fan in the background, or is that just me?
I think that's
Oh,
Kelper.
sorry, that is my heater.
Oh, not a big deal. It's just I didn't know what's wrong.
I didn't hear it, to be honest, but that's fine.
Okay.
Well, what does VR actually need to do to become successful? What do you guys think? Not that it's not successful now, but like to become fully mainstream, what is it that VR would have to do? Do you have any ideas?
I think it needs to be comfortable. That's the number one thing. Graphical fidelity and everything aside, I think people will be able to bear maybe like it has to be good, right? At least Oculus Quest 2 level. But I think it at least has to be comfortable and light to wear for extended periods of time.
Okay, so comfort, it's a big one.
I think accessibility. I would love to see. I know there is one called Viveport, but it's not very good. I think accessibility to AAA VR titles, because one of the common complaints about VR, or common stereotypes that I hear, which I personally don't think is true, but it is a stereotype, is that VR in its current form is just glorified tech demos. Like all the games are kind of like 20-minute experiences and they're not fully depth, but you got Lone Echo, Half-Life Alyx, Asgard's Wrath. Like I can think of games that are long experiences that are really good, and then Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky, like games that have thousands of hours in them. So I don't agree with that argument. But in terms of getting people into VR, the Quest 2, the price point came down, which was huge. They're taking a loss, I think, on each console, but just to get it in people's houses. But I think that's big. But I also think gaming accessibility needs to be good, because right now, to spend $50-$60 on a game that's only going to last you like an hour and it's kind of like a tech demo. So I think I'd love to see something like an Xbox Game Pass that is more for VR.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think all of that needs to happen. And then my last piece, for me, the only issue I have with VR is the FOV. I still don't like that I see the edges.
Tunnel vision.
And I think that bothers a lot of people, at least what I've read on forums and stuff. So I think they need to they have to get out of that. And I'm sure they're moving towards that. It seems like it's getting better every time. But the day that I don't see any edges to the screen, I mean, that's going to be nuts.
I know higher end VR headsets boast like 180-degree FOV, but those are like
Pimax or something, or
that's the one.
Pimax is almost full peripheral vision, 210 degrees or something, or one of them is. Maybe it's not the Pimax, but there's one system out there that has a full view.
But it's also incredibly expensive.
It's like $5,000.
I would assume so.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And to 3 was Too Short's point there in the chat in terms of pricing, I again think the Quest 2 is standalone. So the Quest 2 I think is like, was it $350 or something American? I don't know how much it is American. Canadian, it's like
Quest 2 is $300 American.
So to me, you're almost you've segregated into choices. Do you buy a PS5? Do you buy, you go PC gaming, or I think there's going to be a group of people that are just, VR gamers. You buy a Quest 2 and you can play VR right out of the box. You don't need anything else. So I think their pricing is actually, it's not, it can still get better obviously, but I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. I have a few points to share, but I want to hear Athricus first. So we've heard from Erebus and James.
Well, other than agreeing with them, with comfort and field of view and clarity and all that stuff, I really want to see them add some sort of like functioning proper AR support, a pass-through support. Like the pass-through it's not great. It's super delayed. It's super blurry. It's not in color. If they could make it so that you click a button and it's like you're almost in the real world, but you have that augmented reality of being able to have screens, move your screens around, I would certainly never buy another monitor again. So I think with everything they've said, certainly comfort and having the AR capability. I guess the only other thing I would add is, and it goes along with comfort, would be portability. I don't want to have my controllers. I don't want to carry them around with me. And I don't want it to be so big that I have to put it in a carrying case. I want it to be small enough that I can and light enough that I can put it in my pocket like a phone, and then or put it in my backpack and not have to have it in a case. I want it to be durable and rugged and not be like afraid it's going to break. But certainly I want them to get rid of the controllers as well. They've got the hand tracking on the Quest 2. It's okay. It's not great, but if they can make that perfect, I think that would be a lot more mainstream.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah. But I think honestly what it comes down to is developers need to push for VR, right? Valve started with Half-Life Alyx, Erebus, you mentioned that. I think if developers start focusing hard, like really hard on VR, and they make kick-ass games that you have to buy, like the problem with everyone's saying, like, why would anybody buy an Xbox Series X right now, right? There's no Halo Infinite, blah blah blah. Like the tech in it is incredible, as far as I can tell. Like everything in it is ridiculous for the price you're paying. You're getting insane hardware, but they have no games, so that's why people are saying, well, why buy it? Who cares? Ultimately, I think a general consumer, unless you're like a techie type kind of person, an average Joe or someone who's a casual gamer is not going to go to VR unless there are incredible games. Like some people buy an Xbox or PlayStation to play Call of Duty every year or a sports game or whatever. Like they have their games they like. They don't care about the tech. They just want to play the games they like. So if companies actually develop insane, amazing games and the media takes over and they say, look, this is the next big thing, like what World of Warcraft did for like PC gaming and stuff like that, bringing everyone in saying like, this is the game you have to play, right? That I think that is what would push VR into more mainstream and making a big deal that way.
I agree to an extent. The developers, there's definitely some onus on developers to develop games. However, I think the games are there. I think if anyone that buys a VR headset, I think most games are represented now in VR. There's good, high quality, high Metacritic score games in most categories now for VR. There's enough meat there for people to justify a purchase. So I do agree developers have to keep pushing the envelope. They have to keep making it. But I think there's a higher onus to we need VR in people's houses. And I think Facebook has the right approach there, that they're taking a loss on each console. They're trying to increase the number. I think, Arthur, because we were looking at this the other day, I think it's 1 or 2% of Steam users have a VR headset, right? So you have indie developers out there. You have the smaller developers that are not as big as Valve that are not going to be willing to take a leap or can't afford to take a leap in designing a VR game unless there's a 10 or a 20% demographic of VR users on Steam where they can actually reasonably take that risk and know they'll get a return. And if VR is not in people's houses or not in a way, there's going to be a lot of companies that just won't be willing to take that risk. Mm-hmm. So top tier developers, absolutely, that have the resources, should be pouring time into VR, should be developing games. Every game that's made for flat screen by a top tier developer, I would hope that they have VR implementation for them. They should take the time and do that. But again, the carrot at the end of the stick for people, there needs to be more VR in houses. More houses.
How do you get VR in houses? You have amazing games, right? If someone buys Call of Duty every year,
but it's already there. It's already there. Like there's already enough games to get people.
But I don't think there's enough big games. Like there's people who are already into VR or somewhat into VR. Look at Asgard's Wrath and stuff. The general person on the street is not going to have any clue what the hell Asgard's Wrath is. Not the same way they see Call of Duty or whatever, right? We know Asgard's Wrath because we are in VR. I would classify as more on the hardcore gamer side than casual gamer. But what Activision needs to do is make a Call of Duty game exclusive for VR, that the people who buy Call of Duty every year be like, oh crap, I need to play Call of Duty. Okay, I'll go. How much is this Oculus Quest? Maybe by the time that happens, Oculus Quest might be $199. Who knows? So instead of going to buy the new PlayStation for Call of Duty, they buy an Oculus Quest, right? I think that is what needs to happen, like in order for VR to really take off. But until that happens, I don't think it will. Until something like that happens. What do you guys think about that? Feel free to disagree.
I'm trying to give somebody else the opportunity to jump in.
I guess you're looking at it more from a console stance. You're like the Xbox wouldn't sell, and I mean technically the Quest 2 it certainly is a console, but you're saying it needs that flagship game. That's
exactly it, right? I think if it has this insane game, like PC had World of Warcraft, people went out and bought PCs to play World of Warcraft.
So to me, Half-Life Alyx is the flagship game. It's one of the biggest franchises in the world.
I think I disagree solely for the fact that it's not multiplayer. I think
Yeah, I wouldn't
multiplayer
agree.
games
I wouldn't
is
agree with that
the-
either. Yeah.
It happened to be like the biggest. I mean, I guess you look at something like PlayStation and you say the biggest games are like God of War, Last of Us, Uncharted, right? Those are all single player experiences, and those are what sell consoles. However, I think what gets the console into the house is, oh, I want to buy a console to play, Minecraft with my buddies. I want to buy a console to play like Call of Duty, Destiny, whatever it is with my buddies. And so I think if you want more units, you need to have more communal experiences in VR.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If all your friends are buying VR and you want to play with them, like not all your friends aren't going to buy VR to play a game by yourself. Exactly.
Right? Like I have a bunch of buddies who were kind of all over the spectrum with like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to buy a Series X or like a PS5. They're kind of more like just kind of, oh, well, like I'll play a game here and there. And so I'm like, me being probably the most hardcore gamer out of some of my friends, I was like, oh, I'm buying a PS5. And one of my other buddies was like, oh, I have a PS4, love it. And I love these games that were on the PS4. I want to play the PS5. And so I was like, oh, we'll play together. Now the two of us are in, the other two are like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to buy a PS5. Because there's going to be communal experiences.
I can go there. The multiplayer piece I can understand. I don't necessarily agree it needs to be a Call of Duty. I look at Nintendo Switch. It has its own identity. It has its own types of games that it attracts people. I own a Switch, and I also own an Xbox and a PC for different reasons. Could VR have its own market where it has its own identity, its own type of games that attracts the gamers that own multiple consoles? I think it could go there, but I do agree. Yeah, a flagship title like Call of Duty or something that there is multiplayer draw. There's not well-known multiplayer draw in the one of those big titles. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I honestly think that's what it needs. If in the media took hold, like a big company like Activision, or if Blizzard made, I don't know, StarCraft 3 in VR, not StarCraft, it's a bad example, like Diablo 4 was VR exclusive or something like that, like a big game that would draw a bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to do VR exclusive. No one's going to take that.
That's what Valve did.
That's what Valve did, yeah.
They did with a single player game, yes.
Right.
But for them to do a Call of Duty VR only multiplayer game, I mean, maybe they will, but that's again, like, if you look at that from a just a pure business standpoint, it's like, okay, we got 1% of Steam users use VR. Let's make our next game VR only. And I think that's more my point. If they can look at the stats and say, okay, now we got 30% of people are using VR on Steam. Well, that maybe is an easier sell to people to say, hey, we're going to go VR only with our next game. We're going to take a jump here. But I think you need VR in houses more. But I see both. I see your argument, Kelthar, that like they need to have, that game needs to be there from a multiplayer standpoint. I just don't know if the first step is getting more VR headsets sold, just to get, like, in a general sense, or if it needs that to really take off.
Mm-hmm. And I see what you're saying too. I just really think that what will get headsets into the house is the games. Like, that's why people buy stuff. Like, people aren't going to buy an Xbox Series X to watch movies, right? Like, they're going to buy it so they can play the best games. Right, the same way you're going to buy a VR headset.
But if we think a little bit more expansive, and to James Walmer's point, maybe it's not a game that gets the Quest 2 off. Maybe it's some crazy thing that's non-gaming that gets Quest 2.
That's a very valid point too.
Selling off the shelves, and then through that, as I said, now your usage is way up.
Travis Scott Oculus Quest concert.
Man, that Fortnite concert was amazing. That
it was so cool.
Whether you like Fortnite or not, that was cool. I agree. Something like that in VR would be insane if they did something like that. So that's a good point. Something like that would be really cool.
Yeah. There needs to be a game like Fortnite in VR, I think, which would really draw people in. Something of that caliber,
like a free-to-play season pass based.
Exactly.
Free-to-play, yeah. 100%. If they can get that going, yeah.
That receives a bunch of post-launch support.
Yeah.
It's Population 1. It's not free to play, I guess.
Population 1. The mistake they made with that game is that game is getting extremely high reviews. It's a battle royale game designed for VR. I actually really want to play it. The mistake they made with that game, but again, probably because they have to recoup their costs, is it's $30. If it was free, if that was a free to play, that might be one of your games because it's supposed to be really good. But again, it doesn't have any brand identity. A lot of people don't know about it. But it's Population One is you guys should. If anyone's listening to this and is into VR, it looks really really good.
Yeah. No, for sure. We're clocking in around an hour, so we can probably answer a couple more questions here that I was looking at. So, are there any downsides to VR gaming that you guys find? Like, there besides like the comfort level or anything, is there anything else that would really deter people from getting into it? Do you think, or from it to really taking off?
I don't think there's I don't think there's anything like that just off the top of my head that would like deter people as far as the way I think the way you're trying to word it. But I do have a concern. Well, I have two concerns actually, and I'll skip through one. I do fear that it will slowly become kind of like PlayStation, Xbox. It'll become console exclusives. There'll be a lot of console exclusive games, and I'm afraid that'll start to happen, and it'll kind of deter you from getting the best headset, and it'll push you more towards keeping the same brand of headset that you have, whether it's the best or not, just because that's where all your games are.
Okay, so like
that.
Games being exclusive to Oculus, you mean? Like things like that?
One's exclusive to Oculus. There's a bunch that are exclusive to Index and all that shit. That was one minor concern. My controversial concern is I'm a little bit up in the air on this. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, 5G is gonna
Give you coronavirus,
or cancer or whatever. But I certainly do have fears on having something that has that 5G capability, that has Wi-Fi and all that stuff going to it, and having that strapped directly to your head for extreme long periods of time. And you could say that, or you could say, the screens being too close to your eyes can damage them over time, and yada yada. So I do have physical concerns with having something strapped to your head for a long period of time. That's really all I'm worried about. All right, and I think would possibly deter some people from doing it.
Yeah. The health effects are my concern too. Like that's probably my primary concern, is that it becomes super popular, and then it becomes the technology advancement is so quick, and they kind of forego the research into the long lasting impacts of VR. Like they already have warnings saying you shouldn't have prolonged exposure to let kids use it for prolonged periods of time because their eyes are still developing. So there's already warnings about that. So like, yeah, but it's the same thing with like the evolution of cell phone technology. Like, are we all going to find out in 5 years that, cell phones are like cigarettes and we're all going to get brain cancer at the same time because we didn't know the impacts of 4G and 5G and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I agree. Like I'm concerned about, and like the whole like Neuralink idea of having something hooked up to your brain and your line, like the Sword Art Online kind of thing. Right. I mean, that was an anime, I know, and a story, but just see what happened in that thing, right? Like the premise of all these different risks of giving that much access to yourself is, right. I think privacy is one, and then the health effects are the other. So.
And just going more simple, like having a 1 pound thing strapped to the front of your head, like that's a lot of strain on your neck muscles and probably your spine. And I mean, if we're not talking about electronics, we're just having something physically strapped to your head. It's probably pretty straining.
It's just weighted training.
I haven't heard that. I honestly haven't researched that, but I feel like there'd be warnings about and maybe I don't think having the extra thing on your head, like it's not that heavy.
I'd say they'll get lighter and lighter anyway over time.
Yeah,
I would think.
Yeah, but you're right. Maybe. I mean, Tim the Tat Man has a dent on his head now from wearing a headset.
Does he actually? I never saw that.
Yeah, he has a dent on his head from wearing his headset so much.
Do you think that's actually from wearing a headset?
I don't know if it's a little marketing thing, but there is a dent exactly where his headband is on his head, and it looks hilarious. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
James, anything you want to throw in?
Maybe like I'm thinking of in Sword Art Online Season 2 when there was that guy who was sending people to people's houses to literally like kill them while they were in VR and they like couldn't do anything because they lived alone. And that's like my serial killer, like, you know,
Interesting.
fear
Right.
is like someone's gonna break into my house if I'm living alone and in VR.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's yeah, that's an issue I have with VR too. The total immersion thing and how immersed do I actually want to be, and like just from a simple perspective, at least in present times, like I'm a substitute teacher, so I need to make sure I'm aware of where my phone is at all times because I need to make sure I don't miss a call. So if I'm in VR, I need to make sure my phone is on bust so I can actually hear my phone, right? But if I'm completely immersed, like again, I to be honest, I haven't looked a whole lot at the Neuralink, but it sounds like it's like basically complete and total immersion. Like, so, but again, I guess by that point, if you have something like that, you can just have like your cell phone hooked up to the headset
Your
and see
phone would
text
bring
messages
through.
come up anyway.
You can
so,
even now you can
Or like
if it-
security cameras.
Well, you can do that in
Yeah.
VR now. You can have a monitor open which has your security feed running on a separate monitor in VR. Like so that kind of stuff is solved. But
Yeah.
I know that the Quest 2, at least, you can run something through SideQuest to actually download Android apps onto it, so you can have your Messenger app on your
oh,
Quest.
sick.
Wow.
that's awesome. So we're already there.
That's really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the whole total immersion thing. Like, again,
You sound like an old man.
yeah, maybe I am,
We
but
would have killed for that back in the day, man.
I know,
Think about our grandparents talking about like TV and about like
yeah,
I that's what I think is going to happen. I think we may be too far gone. Maybe VR will be too much, and we'll say this is too much. But the kids, man, like the
I
kids
worry
will
about
come
the.
out
I
growing
do
up with
worry
that.
about the kids though, and yes, maybe that's old man
Yeah,
me
that
talking.
is definitely old man, dude.
Think
That's
of
what
the
they said, too.
children.
That's what they said about us. Oh, think about they were playing video games all day and they're watching TV all day,
Yeah.
right?
But playing video games all day is one thing, but being immersed in another world completely and not knowing where you are, if you were someone doing that 12, 16 hours a day as a kid, can you imagine how messed up you would be?
They were saying the same thing about
That's true. They were saying the same.
they were
thing
saying the
about
same
us.
thing back when we were just a thought,
Yep.
man. They're
Yep.
like they were saying the bad stuff about TV. I'm pretty sure they said it about radio. Like they said there was like
Books at one
Which-
point too.
Is
Well, like,
true,
they're-
but VR just feels different. I've never done anything before where I actually feel like I'm in another world. Like video games, you play World of Warcraft, you feel like you're in Azeroth and stuff. Like, but like you still know you're in your computer room. Like when I tried VR the first time at your house, Erebus, like, and I was playing that game where I was flying around in a ship, I was like, holy crap, dude, I'm in the cockpit. Like this is crazy. I'm not in your room. I'm not in your basement. I'm in space.
But the first TVs, man, they were like, geez, this box is talking to me for 10 hours a day. So like it's just to me, I just think it's perspective. I think yes, I think it's dangerous. I think TV is dangerous. I think there's people that binge watch TV that go way too far with it. So I think it's going to be. I agree. I think I have the exact same concerns as you. I have kids too. I have concerns about my kids growing up with this. I think it's going to be crazy. But again, I think we're going to have that old man syndrome.
Yeah, but but the other thing too is like they don't recommend TV for anybody under the age of 5. Like, and I'm pretty sure we've all shown our kid more TV than we probably should have. Like, I still try to limit it as much as I can. And that they're gonna have the same probably regulations on VR. Don't give anybody a VR headset under the age of like 10, but like they're gonna give it to like 5 and 6-year-olds, and like who knows the damage that's gonna do to a young kid, right? So that's my concern. Again, I'm an old man, I guess.
That should be your thumbnail for this podcast. With the Snapchat filter, an old man or something.
Yeah, but that's it. Is there anything we didn't cover that you guys want to cover? Like I said, we're at like probably an hour 10 now. Is there anything else that we didn't cover before we do our wrap up final thoughts?
I think that was pretty comprehensive. I think that was good.
Yeah. Okay. So final thoughts, Erebus. Is VR gaming going to take over and be the future?
VR is going to take over and be the future. I think televisions are on their way out. I don't know the exact timing, but I think screens in general are on their way out. To Athricus's point, I think there's going to be a merge between AR and VR at some point. I think we're a lot closer to it than people realize. I think it's going to be controversial. I think it's going to be damaging to a lot of people, but I don't think there's anything that's going to stop that train from moving. So I think we're down the road of VR taking over, and I don't think it's a gimmick. I know a lot of people argue it's a gimmick. I think it's coming full steam ahead, and I personally, I'm a huge supporter of it, love it, and I hope to see more of it. And if through this podcast, just one listener decides to buy VR, I'll be extremely happy.
Yeah. Let us know if you do get VR. because we want to hear from you. We want to know what your experiences are for sure. Cool. Athricus, final thoughts on VR?
I think in its current form, it's not the future of anything. I think that given a long enough timeline, it is the future of everything.
That's deep. That is deep. I love it.
You
I
definitely
love
wrote
that.
that at like 3 a.m. last
No,
night.
certainly.
Rehearse with delivery and everything. That's awesome. That was perfect. Cool. James, how about you? Final thoughts on VR?
I think I have to agree. I definitely came into this with the different perspective, but I think I've been swayed. I think it is the future once you nail all the things that make it accessible, comfortable, and an experience that can not just that doesn't take away from social experiences outside of VR, but incorporates those effectively to only add on to the present world, I guess. I don't know. I think it's the future.
Cool. That's awesome. For me, like I said, I'm going to reiterate, I think it is the future. I think it's going to be delayed getting there until the games come out, at least in regards to gaming VR taking over. Like we talked about the other uses of VR, like, putting it on as soon as you enter your house and you have virtual stuff everywhere. That's a separate thing. But I think for gaming to take over, there just needs to be a few killer apps to come out. That's my opinion. For sure. Cool. I think that was a great discussion, guys.
That was great.
That was good. Do we want to end off with a little bit of trivia before we head off here?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cool. So, yes, let's get into some trivia. So, again, this is a segment I like to do at the end of shows where I ask everyone on the panel and try to stump them with a hopefully tricky question that they don't already know the answer to. So, yeah, here we go. So, virtual reality technology was invented in 1957 by Morton Heilig. I believe I'm pronouncing that probably incorrectly. His multimedia device is considered one of the earliest VR systems. What was the name of this device? So I'm going to give you guys 4 multiple choice, and if you do know the answer for sure, then I'll go to you last, but I'll go to each person and you can each give your guess, and then I'll give you the final answer after that. So, what was the name of the device that Morton Heilig made in 1957? Was it called Access Time? Was it called Sensorama? Was it called Cyberspace? Or was it called Portable Space? So I'll say that again. So virtual reality technology was invented in 1957 by Morton Heilig. His multimedia device is considered one of the earliest VR systems, and what did he call it? Was it Access Time, Sensorama, Cyberspace, or Portable Space? Does anybody know this? I assume nobody does.
I didn't even know 1957 was when it was first created. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't either.
The earliest form now is probably garbage, let's be honest. But I think it was the 80s.
1957, like what the heck
Yeah.
would they have had back then? Like that.
Yeah. I think it was the 80s when it first started to resemble a.
Well, like you think of the Virtual Boy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
right. But like
what
this was
the
the
heck
very,
was in
very
that?
first iteration of it. Yeah, which was I thought this was interesting too. So does anyone want to take a guess?
What were the options again?
So Access Time, Sensorama, Cyberspace, or Portable Space.
I got my guess. I'm locked down.
You want to go first? All right, take it away, Jim.
Yeah. Sensorama. That is a 50s ass name.
Sensorama. Okay. Well, James is locked into that one. Athricus, we'll go to you next. What do you think?
I'll just say portable space. I think you made it up, but we'll go with that one.
You think I made it?
I think you made it up, but we'll go with that.
What are the
Okay.
what are the choices
So
again?
Access Time,
Yeah.
Sensorama, Cyberspace, Portable Space.
I also think you made up Portable Space. It seems like something you would say.
Okay.
I don't think cyber was a
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, exactly.
57.
Yeah.
Wasn't a word? Okay.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
Cyber in 57, man. That was before JFK was assassinated. Like there was nothing. Like
Black and white TV back then.
I actually want to look up the legitimacy of this question in general. I don't believe it. But I don't think it's Sensodyne or whatever the heck it was. So I think it's the Access one that you said.
Access time?
Yes.
Okay. So, James, you said Sensorama. Athricus, you said Portable Space. Right?
Space.
Yes. And Erebus, you're saying Access time. So we have one correct answer.
Oh.
James, you are correct. It is Sensorama.
Wow.
It is Sensorama. Yeah.
I knew it.
So yeah, that was a good educated guess, saying that's the most
Thank
50s name, Sensorama.
50's
Yeah.
last name. Had to be.
Do we get a bonus point for confirming you made up Portable Space?
I was trying to come up with names. I'm like, what can I call this to make it somewhat believable? So yeah.
That one definitely wasn't.
Okay, well, Athricus picked it. So
Hey, I knew you made it up though. I had no idea. I made a guess.
yeah, but nice work, James. Your first time on the podcast, and
you.
you already got a point. So that's good.
So where's the imaginary leaderboard now? We haven't been keeping track at all, have we?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for us. So before I do the final housekeeping, let's just go around again. So Erebus, just anything you want to plug or say before we go?
Twitch.tv/Erebus. Haven't streamed since 2015, but maybe next week will be the week.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Maybe. Let's see. 3 was too short, and chat is saying its Sensorama came out in 1962, technically. So I should lose a point.
Oh my goodness.
So the source I was using was saying maybe it was first thought of and actually started to be invented then, and maybe it actually came out.
And
Maybe
if
it was patented
you had said 62, I definitely would have guessed Sensorama. So
Right on. So yes, I lose a point. My bad. Athricus, anything before we go?
No, we're all good.
Cool stuff. James, I know you got a few things you want to say before you go.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we got Strictly Casual Podcast, Strictly Casual Official on Twitch, twitch.tv/strictlycasual. My personal Twitch is twitch.tv/justjamesdaily. And then our socials are posted on our Twitch, so you can just go from there. And
Awesome stuff, man. Well, thanks so much for being here, James. It was great having you on, and we'd love to have you back if you're up for it, for sure.
dude, thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah, no problem. It'd be cool to have you and Vincent on the same one, actually. I think that'd be kind of cool.
That'd
too.
be wild.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Cool stuff. Well, thanks, Erebus and Athricus, also for being here. It's always great having you guys here as well. And that's going to do it for us. So you can follow us on Twitter at iNevercast for this on Twitter. And I am at Kelthar for Twitter as well. If you have a question, you want to give us a trivia question, you want to ask us any questions about anything, email us at inevercastforthis@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can check the show notes every week on our shows, and all posts for socials are all there. So you can join our Discord channel and all that kind of stuff too. And leave us a review. You can find us on iTunes. Is it still called iTunes? I have no idea. Wherever that is, Apple Podcasts.
Apple Music.
Yeah, whatever it is. Leave us a review. If you liked us, if you hated us, leave us a review and just bash the crap out of us. That's fine too. Other than that, that's going to do it for us. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, and we will see you all next Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care, guys.